You have been told that spreading your money across different things protects you. Stocks and bonds, different sectors, different geographies. You did it. You felt responsible. The financial press called it prudent. When the next serious disruption arrives, it will go through your diversified portfolio, the way a flood goes through a house with windows on every side. The way you have been protecting yourself is not protection. It is the feeling of protection. And the difference between those two things is going to cost someone, everything. You built the portfolio over years. Each decision felt sound. You spread the risk. You did not bet everything on one thing. You held multiple positions in multiple categories and felt that the spread itself was doing the protective work. But when you look at what you actually own, most of it sits in the same general zone. Not wildly risky. Not genuinely safe. Somewhere in the middle, where the returns are modest enough to feel responsible and the risk is distributed enough to feel managed. You looked at your holdings and called it balance. Balance is not the word. The word is uniformity, dressed as diversity. You spread across 10 different things in the same risk category and called it diversification. But 10 positions with similar exposure to the same underlying conditions are not 10 separate bets. When conditions shift, they shift together, and the 10 separate lines on your portfolio statement drop together. Not one at a time, all at once. Because they were never actually separate. The feeling of having spread your risk was real. The actual spread was not. There is a shape of protection that works, and a shape that only looks like it works. Most portfolios are built in the wrong shape. The shape that works does not try to find a safe middle. It holds two extremes at the same time. One position so stable it is almost boring. The kind of thing that survives almost anything because it gives up almost all upside in exchange for genuine durability. A second position that is genuinely bold. Something with a real chance of a large gain that you can afford to lose entirely because you structured it that way. Nothing in the middle. The middle is where things are damaged enough to hurt and not bold enough to offset the damage. Think of it like a ship that carries both a life raft and a powerful engine. The life raft does nothing in good conditions. The engine is what matters when the sea is calm. But when the engine fails, the life raft is what keeps you alive. The ship that carries only a medium-powered engine with a medium-quality backup has neither the speed of the first configuration nor the survival capacity of the second. In good conditions, it is fine. In bad conditions, it has nothing to fall back on. Your portfolio is probably a fleet of medium-powered ships. In August of 1994, Confederation Life Insurance Company of Canada closes its doors. At the time of its failure, it is one of the largest life insurance companies in the country, with more than 4 billion Canadian dollars in assets and a history stretching back to 1871. For most of its existence, it is a stable, conservatively managed institution. In the late 1980s, its investment managers begin concentrating the company's portfolio in commercial real estate mortgages. Not speculative development plays, not high-risk ventures, commercial properties, office buildings, retail space. The kind of mid-tier lending that looks prudent because it is neither wildly aggressive nor purely liquid. It is the middle. Diversified across dozens of properties and borrowers, spread across multiple markets. Exactly the kind of distribution that is supposed to reduce risk. Between 1989 and 1993, commercial real estate values in North America fall sharply. The properties backing Confederation Life's loans are worth less than the loans they secured. The portfolio does not have pockets of failure surrounded by pockets of health. It fails broadly and at the same time because all of it was in the same category responding to the same conditions. The diversification was real on paper and meaningless in practice. On August 11, 1994, Canadian regulators take over Confederation Life. $2.4 billion of policy liabilities require federal intervention to manage. The largest insurance company failure in Canadian history to that point. The post-mortem finds nothing exotic, no hidden positions, no concealed losses. Just a portfolio built entirely in the zone between safe. The middle did not protect the middle. It just made the failure spread uniformly. The mechanism that makes this keep happening is not greed and not stupidity. It is that the middle ground is where most professional advisors are trained to operate. Genuinely safe assets produce low returns that are hard to justify in a presentation. Genuinely bold positions produce volatility that makes clients uncomfortable. The middle produces numbers that look responsible and feel defensible and destroy you in a bad year, for reasons that are never explained, as well as the quarterly statement promised. The medical profession ran a version of this for most of the 20th century. Patients with mild cardiac risk were placed on moderate restrictions, moderate exercise, moderate diet changes, moderate medication. The approach was conservative enough to avoid obvious harm and not aggressive enough to produce genuine change. The outcomes were moderate. The patients who were given the most aggressive lifestyle interventions, the ones that felt extreme compared to the moderate approach, produced better outcomes across almost every measurable category. The middle of the medical approach was comfortable for doctors and patients and produced worse results than either extreme. Your portfolio right now is probably built to survive normal conditions and perform adequately in good ones. It is probably not built to survive a serious disruption, and it does not have positions large enough in genuinely explosive opportunities to offset the damage when the disruption arrives. You are holding the middle because the middle feels like the responsible answer. And you are ignoring what happens to the middle when conditions shift, because conditions have not shifted badly enough recently to make that cost visible. The yield on your bonds is not what you think it is when you account for what they protect you from in a serious downturn. The equity positions in your diversified fund are not actually separate from each other in the way that matters when a real shock arrives. And the genuinely safe position you dismissed as too conservative is sitting there, producing almost nothing while doing the one job that the rest of the portfolio cannot do. The principle is this: separate your financial position into two layers and put nothing in between. The first layer holds what you cannot afford to lose, not what you prefer not to lose. What losing would change the structure of your life. That layer goes into positions of genuine durability, treasury instruments, cash equivalents, things that give up almost all return in exchange for not failing when everything else does. The proportion going here is larger than feels comfortable, much larger. The second layer holds what you can genuinely afford to lose entirely, a specific amount, named in advance, not a percentage that adjusts upward when the market is rising. A fixed amount you could lose tomorrow without it touching the first layer. That amount goes into positions with real asymmetry, things where the downside is the loss of that fixed amount and the upside is a multiple. What you give up is the story that your portfolio is well managed because it is diversified across the middle. That story is comfortable. It has professional backing. It produces decent quarterly statements in normal conditions. What you get is a position where a serious disruption does not destroy you. The first layer survives. The second layer either generates a gain large enough to matter or loses exactly what you already decided you could lose. Neither outcome ends the game. The Confederation Life portfolio managers were not wrong to diversify. They were wrong about what diversification actually does. Spreading across the middle spreads the damage. It does not prevent it. What they needed was not more positions in the middle. What they needed was this: a portfolio structured as a barbell with genuine safety at one end and genuine boldness at the other, and nothing in the zone between them where losses are large enough to matter and gains are small enough to be irrelevant. Barbell is the name. Two heavy ends. Nothing in the middle. That is the shape. The shape of your portfolio is telling you something right now. Most people do not look at the shape. They look at the numbers and call them diversified. The next disruption will not care what the numbers say. It will care what the shape is. And the shape you built is not what you think it is. Next video. The instinct that built the portfolio you just heard described is the same instinct that controls almost every other major decision you make about risk. It is not a financial instinct, it is a psychological one. And it runs deeper than any strategy you can apply to the surface of your decisions. Understanding where it comes from does not neutralize it, but not understanding it leaves you building the same shape in every area of your life.